not everyone's going to like you, not everyone's going to like what decisions you make all the time, but if you've got the right intentions and you're making those decisions for the right reasons, then that's what you're going to go with. Those early years, I wish I could re-go and do AFLW again. Probably if I really reflect, I was like, yeah, I'm doing the work, but I wasn't really doing the work.
You obviously played a bit of a different role this year with Ange taking over the captaincy.
That changeover was really difficult for me to start off with because it's a player and sort of like coaching, staffing, voting, and like that hurt a lot.
This podcast is brought to you by Woodside Energy, helping young players develop and grow as the official sponsor of the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy.
Hello and welcome back to the Dubya podcast by the West Australian. My name's Jackson Barrett. I'm still filling in for Caitlin Bassett. Rosie Deegan's over the other side of the desk.
The only thing consistent here is me these days.
Yeah, only thing we can count on in here.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Today we've got Hayley Miller, which is a really awesome chat. So obviously the Dockers are fresh off a pretty special win over Essendon on the weekend. So she takes us inside a bit of the celebration and the hype around that win on Saturday, which was epic, and then previews this weekend's game against Adelaide. The Dockers are through to a semi-final, which is unbelievable. But there was a whole heap more in this. She talks about some of the big issues around AFLW and start time and whether it should be attached to the men's league and some certainty that players are kind of chasing in their lives. So that was really interesting as well. And she opens up on losing the captaincy this year and the changes that happened there and what she's taken out of that process.
Yeah, no, she was really honest, and it was really good to hear her opinions on the season, even the captaincy, which is something that she hasn't really got to comment on before this podcast. So it's a really interesting chat, and we hope you guys really enjoy it. It's
really cool getting senior players that have been there, done that in this league, weighing in on what they think is best for its future. So here's our really awesome chat with Fremantle Dockers star Hayley Miller. Hayley Miller, thanks for coming on the W podcast.
Thank you. Excited. Thanks for having me.
Pretty exciting weekend. Saturday afternoon, Freo Oval, and a elimination final win over Essendon. That must have been pretty special, right?
Yeah, it absolutely was. I don't know what you sort of expect with the crowd and what that sort of felt like, but post-game, I've never experienced anything like that.
Really?
And yeah, when I think, this year we've got this new thing where we kind of have a joke about it. Put us in the pen, put all the players in the pig pen, and everyone can get around, come and have a look, and gawk at all the players. But no, it's incredible to have everyone around, and there was a photo of just how many people were there to support us, and we were loving it. If you were down there, you would have seen us singing and carrying on like there was no tomorrow. But no, it was so much fun.
Can you tell, like when you walk out there for a game, did you think like, oh, this is pretty big? Because it was about 3 times what probably your average for the season has been. Could you tell straight away?
You can tell, like if you look at the far side generally, and how much it sort of comes around to. I suppose most of the time everyone's sort of under that big tree in the shade, down the left-hand side of the ground. As it starts to fill around the right-hand side, there's a few more than usual.
Finals footy, how different is it? Like, is it a little bit more chaotic and all the things that people say it is?
Yeah, definitely. I think we always knew it was going to be a tough battle with Essendon, and we had a really great win against them round 1, but for both teams a lot of things had changed between round 1 and where we're at now. So you always go in there not really knowing what you're going to come up against, but it's chaotic, but you just kind of have to get it done. And I think the weekend I went into that extremely confident that, if we do what we, been doing all year and we put our brand of footy together, then their result will take care of itself. But again, you never know with finals. If teams play out of their skin, any team can win.
We've got to talk about Mim Strom. She's our favourite here. She's our player of the year.
Yeah, we did. We went back in the listed players of the year and he predicted Mim to win.
And she won.
Wow,
Yeah,
there you go.
Happy with that.
I didn't, unfortunately. But I predicted Ash.
Loser.
Well, that's a close. That's going to be a close
2
second.
Frios, so a bit of loyalty here from us.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly. Bleed purple.
Yeah, I love that.
50 hit-outs again, 26 disposals and just all sorts of crazy stats, inside 50s, marks. Playing with her must be incredible at the moment.
Yeah, it's... she's had a fantastic season all season, and then the last couple of weeks it's just gone through the roof. I couldn't believe it last week with the stats sheet that she had. I was like, you're joking.
Yeah.
Like, no ruck does that, gets 30 disposals and then she just went to another level again, and we were joking through the week that she should have had 3 goals last week as well.
100% she should have.
But she fixed it up this weekend and got herself on the scoreboard as well. So
It's a good goal as well, straight out of the ruck.
So good. Those ones are
That's
are
pure.
incredible. Sometimes
Yeah.
we're honestly like, Mim, just take it yourself. If we need to,
Yeah, why tap anymore?
Yeah,
you know?
just don't bother with the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
the midfielder now. She just grabs it.
yeah,
from
just
the
grab
air.
it, kick it down, and we'll do the rest. We'll get down there, but she'll probably get there before us and do it again. So no, she's been absolutely incredible, and like if anyone that knows her, she obviously just goes about her business pretty quietly in the background. Didn't really ever get any credit for how hard she works and what she does around the ground. Obviously, she does inside Freo, but I think from the external, not a lot. But yeah, she's getting everything she deserves now.
A couple of people have said that. Ange said the same thing on the show where she was like, Mim's been doing this for years. Like, you basically just haven't noticed, right?
Yeah, and I think
That's unlike the media.
Hey.
I think, yeah. Well, as a ruck, I think, her tap work's always been pretty good, and she's had to work really hard on that because she is an undersized ruck. So, and we've spoken about this, Mim and I have, when she first came in, she was 18, she was thrown in the deep end, and it was like, you know what, we're not expecting big things from you. We just want you to make it as hard as you can for the opposition ruck.
Yeah.
I think she might have taken that a bit personally. And now she's like, you know what, I'm going to put it exactly where you want it to go.
ruin their
I'm going to
lives.
show you.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you that I can beat every single ruck in the comp. And
Mate,
that's,
and midfielder at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah.
well, then, so she got that part, the ruck part of it, and really
easy,
worked
yeah.
on that. And then it was like, okay, what can I do next? And it's go and get the ball myself
Yeah.
and tackle and take hangers and all sorts.
Yeah.
Just wait till she gets the forward line. She's asking, not
Yeah.
enough goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what am I
Yeah.
missing? What am I missing? It's
Yeah,
the
like,
goals.
yeah,
Could be a
3
30
goals
goal a
game.
year player.
Yeah, crazy.
Before we throw forward to Adelaide next week, let's jump back to the start for you. Can you tell us where footy started for you?
Yeah, I didn't play footy growing up. I just came into it late with high school. I kicked around the footy with my brother when I was younger, so I learnt to kick and whatnot, but it was all just, fun and mostly just so he could have a kick. But, yeah, that probably helped in terms of the transition and being able to pick up the game pretty quickly. But always watched footy, grew up an Eagles supporter, which is controversial, but we've moved on from that now. We're full Freo these days. But, yeah, so in high school they had like a little women's comp. It wasn't big. It wasn't anything fancy, but I just loved the game for what it was. And, yeah, had so much fun just running around and playing it. And then there was a weekend comp one week, and a couple of my teachers said, look, you should do it. And I was really reluctant to do it to start off with, but I'm so glad that I ended up doing it, got scouted from there, ended up on the state team before I'd ever played a real game of football, and then it all, kind of honestly went from nothing
Seamless
to
transition for most.
went from nothing to everything, and within the space of a couple of years. After that experience, I went away and actually joined a club. So I joined West Perth, or Joondalup Falcons at the time.
Yeah.
And then played outside of school as well. So, and then, it was only a couple of years, and then there started to be talk about a national comp coming in, and so it went from like nothing to everything pretty quickly.
If you're playing state footy before you've played an actual game, you've clearly picked it up pretty nicely. Do you remember like your early games at school being like, oh, I'm actually probably better than a lot of these girls?
Were you obviously the best in the team? I'm assuming so.
What, at school?
Yeah.
Well, I think I was just athletic. I was always a very fast
17
runner.
bounces down the wing.
Yeah.
I was always a really fast runner. Could evade and get away from people. Like skills-wise, I could kick the ball in the air, so that helps.
Helps.
Get it off the
See,
tee.
Bass can't, so...
And I was definitely the most committed to the sport. Like, I really wanted to play. And for a while, the first year, there was a few other older girls that were keen to play and maybe play a little bit outside of football. The second year, I had to get all my friends. They had no interest in football, no interest in sport, really. And I was like, can you just play so that I get to play? And I can't thank those friends enough. They did it. And I was like, you just stand in the forward line or the back line and like, don't move.
They get
Don't even
around
go
it?
near the... Yeah, they did. Well, they didn't do much. They screamed and ran away from the ball, but I was like, I don't care what you do. We just need enough players so that I can get out there
Get the
and
ball
have
to
a
me.
run.
Is it fair to say none of them have gone on to play AFLW?
No, I don't think any
Shocking.
of them are playing any sorts of sport anymore. But I can't thank them enough because they honestly allowed me to play. And because if they didn't join, then we wouldn't have had a team. And after I left school, our school team disappeared for a little while. I think it's back now, which is awesome. But I was certainly a driver for it.
Where'd
for
you
a
go to
while.
school?
St. Mark's.
Yeah.
Oh,
In Hillary's, yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was a Sacred Heart kid.
Oh, there you go.
They're very near.
Nice that you're able to get the weekly Seabass Can't Kick dig in there as well. Nice and early. Good to like, tick that box. We can move
I don't
on.
know if you've heard on
Were
the
you
media.
there the day
It's
that
pretty big.
Caitlin Bassett trained?
I was there, but I wasn't out there.
Okay.
But you saw,
watching
you
her do
witnessed it.
Infamous
there.
vision.
Yeah, the greatness or the potential greatness she might. I know Mim was probably shaking in her boots.
Yeah.
Seeing Seabass kick
She was
the
like,
ball.
all right, I've got to somehow get around this girl.
Yeah.
It's just a light tap. Just light shove to the side. Might do the job.
By the time AFLW and like the national comp was on the radar, were you at a stage where you were like, you're obviously an inaugural Docker, were you at a stage when it was being discussed where you're like, that's probably for me?
Yeah, I think by then I'd played a couple of years. So I was in the under-18 state team I was part of the first year. I didn't do it the second year. I think we had ski trip or something. I wanted to go and ski trip for school, as you do.
Fair enough.
Priorities at that time for sure. I was not missing that. But then was part of the state team the few years after that as well. And then I went from Joondalup Falcons to Coastal Titans, which is like Subiaco equivalent, just because the program at the time was a lot more advanced, and there was a lot of girls playing there that now play or have played AFLW.
I remember you there because I was
Yeah?
in the little junior one because I had to play like one game to qualify for state, and I was watching you in league just like kill it, and I was like, jeez.
No,
Glad
it was-
I'm in juniors.
So that's how you ended up at Subiaco?
That's how I ended
through
up at
Coastal Titans?
Subiaco. Yep. So I moved across there, and so like Turbo, Kiara Bowers was there.
Yeah.
Dana Hooker was playing there. Renee Forth. So it was and Emma King. Like
Fair
most
side.
of those.
That's what
Most of those went on to be marquee players, not
Yeah.
just players. They were marquee players
Yeah.
at lots of different clubs.
That's what I was saying. I was a little kid watching. I was like, oh.
Yeah. So I could list off so many players that, Tia Haynes was there.
Yeah,
There was
wow.
a lot of players that were playing in that team that ended up playing AFLW.
Did you guys win that year?
We had a pretty bad run, to be honest. We
Oh,
made like
really?
every grand final. I think we won one in 2014, I think.
tough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
you hate
we
to
had a
see
bit of
that.
that. Swan Districts, they always seem to get us at the
They were a good side
at
too,
the end
weren't
of the
they?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty much the two sides. East Freo were pretty good. They were sort
Yeah.
of sitting third, and then Peel, and then the rest were kind of they'd had a bit of work to do. But yeah, it was. So I'd played some really good like footy and that high level, and we were coached at a high level, at like club level. So I felt pretty confident that that's where I wanted to go, and we were all kind of striving for that.
What was the Freo recruiting process like? When did they first come on the radar?
So that's funny because, like, now there's obviously lots that goes into recruiting and whatnot. Back then, I feel like it was they just watched us play games of footy.
Yeah.
And because I don't really remember, like, maybe we did a little bit of a combine sort of situation, but it was more to do with, like, state programs rather than clubs doing any of that. So it honestly was probably more so they just watched you play footy and they picked a team off, waffle or and then. So it would have been really hard
There's
initially.
kind of something nice about that though, right?
Yeah.
That it's like I'm playing at the highest level I
casual,
can. Just judge me on how I'm going.
Yeah,
Like,
but
It's fair
it's
enough,
It's
yeah.
funny because
Yeah.
I think about these poor girls now, what they have to go through,
the
like all the
interviews,
drafts,
the testing.
the interviews, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and
2K time trial.
there was
Never
there's
good.
a lot of that, and like a lot of pressure on doing those things well. Yes, you got to play good footy as well, but the footy is that should be the number one thing what that you're looking at, and then those other things are just sort of ticking a few boxes that you are athletic enough, I suppose.
What are your first memories of the club? Were they still at Freo Oval, like the facilities?
Yeah, so only for the first few weeks.
Oh, right, okay.
So the club as it is now in Coburn was being built at the time. It was almost finished, but not quite. It wasn't built to have a women's team in it. So they're actually just now doing a big change room up for us, which is awesome. So that'll be really exciting for next year. But yeah, when we were at Freo Oval, that certainly wasn't built for 2 teams. It was barely built for 1.
Yeah.
We didn't have a change room. We got changed in the lecture theatre.
Really?
There was one toilet that we all had to share.
That's bad for a nervous pre-game week. That line's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it was. So we trained there probably for like a couple of weeks. I just remember it was so exciting. I didn't care about any of that sort of stuff. Did not care. We didn't have lockers. We didn't have anything like that. You had the bare minimum of like a bag and sort of like training gear. It was just like, we can't believe that we're doing this. This is, it's, I guess, the start of something big, and I think you probably reflecting on it, and I probably won't realise the significance of that still probably for another however many years when I'm still playing.
Did it feel big at the time? Like you would have, your first game was at Adelaide at Freo Oval, I think?
Or as in our first home game?
Yeah. Or did you play away?
We played away the very first game. We versed Western Bulldogs at Whitten Oval.
Yep, okay.
That was huge. That was the most nervous I've ever been, probably. For
and that
a
would have
game.
been a couple of days after that Carlton Collingwood
it was
shutout sort of.
Maybe the day after or 2 days after. But I just remember that first game. The Western Bulldogs, they had this. So the countdown. So it was like 10 seconds till the game starts, and they had this heartbeat sound going as it's ticking down.
Sick.
And I was like,
kind of cool.
That is the one thing I remember from that game was like lining up. I think I was in the back line then, so I was lining up at half back and just could feel it in my chest, this like heartbeat sound as it's going down. We didn't play very well that game. We didn't play very well that whole year. But, reflecting back on that, it was just such an awesome experience. And you could kind of tell this was like incredible. Then the build up to it was really great that first year.
What did you feel like AFLW could become when you first started?
Oh, it could have been, I think it was massive. I think the first year was probably the best it was done because there was so much hype around it. Everyone wanted to watch it. It was just this new and exciting thing. I think once it moved to not summer anymore, I really liked the build up to a summer sort of fixture because there was no football in that time. So everyone was like, oh, we haven't had footy in a couple of months. I'm really excited to have footy again. And I know there's a lot of conversations about when's the best time for the season. That part of it was so good with it being in summer. So the first few seasons was incredible because the build up to it was, and you could feel that, and you're like, AFLW is coming. We're good to go. I don't miss playing in 40-degree heat.
I was going to say, there are other difficulties.
There's other massive difficulties.
Bigger crowds, tougher weather.
And it was like we'd play at midday and it's 37 degrees. I remember we played down in Mandurah against Collingwood, I think, either first or second year, and it was 37 or 38 degrees, and we played at 11 a.m, so it was like peak heat. I was like, that's not safe.
No.
Think about now, I was like, that's not safe. I'm surprised no one died.
Yeah. How did you go with, because obviously in the starting and being in part of the inaugural AFLW season, there was also a bit of hate that came with it, and people saying, like, this isn't, how did you go with dedicating, like, a lot of time and then hearing people say that?
Oh, there's still a lot of that, to be honest. Like that I don't think is ever going to go away. I think you get better at filtering it out and just being like, you know what, if you don't like it, you don't need to watch it. It's here to stay out and it's not going to go anywhere, no matter how many of those sort of keyboard warriors want to sort of say that. When you do read it, there is so many more positive ones than what there are negative. And I love the shift now. It's not, oh, how great is this? Girls get to play footy. It's like specific to your team. They're like, how great are our girls? We love, you know, they know players, certain players. They know, you know, the journey that we've been on. So, you just got to listen to the ones that matter. In the start, it's a bit harder because you're not. You're probably not looking for the right things, and you're having a look, and you're seeing all this like hate.
And it's like, it's the first season as well, so you're like, oh, I wonder how people are.
Yeah.
You're probably more inclined to read stuff as well.
Yeah. I think there's a lot in that where, you know, people say, oh, just don't read it. Sometimes it's hard to avoid it.
Yeah, of course.
But Yeah, I think, well, as I've got older, you kind of just take it with a pinch of salt and you're like, well, like people don't like men's football. So if you read any of those things, like there's always things
There's always
that
haters out there.
They're going to hate
yeah.
football in general. They're going to hate whatever sport. People say soccer's boring and like, there's every other sport would have the same sort of issues. So, I don't know, you just kind of have to, take it with a grain of salt.
If you're from Port Hedland, there's a good chance you'll know a player from the Hedland Blazers. The Blazers are Hedland's first women's AFL team, and with support from the local senior league club, there are now teams to accommodate girls from 6 all the way up to 45 years old. Clubs like the Blazers help build resilience, self-esteem, healthy lifestyles and create lifetime friendships, which is why BHP is proud to support them. A place in the team for everyone. To the girls of the Hedland Blazers, that's big.
As a player, like it doesn't feel like the growth of the league has been overly linear. Like you played the 2 seasons in 22 and you've moved around parts of the year and things like that. Is it funny as a player because you saw it at the start, and did you kind of feel like it would just year on year growth? But it kind of hasn't been that way, has it?
No, it hasn't. I don't really know what I expected at the start, to be honest. I was just kind of, you go
just
with the flow and you're just in it and you're just playing. But yeah, if you reflect on it, there has been some real difficulties that come with trying to find the best spot for it. Is it summer? Is it winter? Is it the same time as the men's? Is it outside of that? And then you're competing with other sports. If you go too much into December, there's all this cricket. If you have it at the start of the year, there's Australian Open, and there's so many things that they're sort of competing with all the time. Like we spoke about the weather and that kind of thing. And then, to have the 2 seasons in one was funny because it was either like it was given to us as either you either wait 18 months to play again or you play straight away, almost straight away again. And I don't think anyone would have said, unless they were injured, they'd say,
the ACL people are
like, the ACL are like, let's just wait 18 months. That's great. Yeah. Everyone else is like, let's just get it done. Yeah. But I think there is a few teething issues with anything like this. It would have been great if it had just gone, this is where we're starting and it's just going to grow and it's just going to be exponential and massive straight away. I don't think that was probably ever going to happen, but, could there have been things done differently that might have been better? Yeah, probably, but no one knows when you're going through it. And you throw COVID in there as well, that certainly disrupts a lot of things.
What's your read on when's best, like this season and the talks of it moving forward a few weeks? Do you feel like that's around the mark?
Yeah, I don't know if where it's at the moment is the right one with jumping off the back of the men's finals, because I do think it gets lost a little bit at the start of like the start of our season. Yes, we get round 1, which is in free air, but then after that, rounds 2 to 5 is men's finals and then grand final. Like how can you sort of compete with that? That's tough to compete with. So I'm not sure if that is the right, or if they move it a little bit earlier. I guess then we talk about, would you have some overlaps of games where you have some double headers? I personally think that's a great idea. I know a lot of people are against that because I was going to say there's a huge
movement in the WNBL, and they got like T-shirts that say like women's sport isn't a curtain raiser.
Yeah.
That's kind of moving around like in basketball. Yeah. So I was wondering how you kind of fall on that. So you're for it?
I don't mind it, only because it's also like, where else are you gonna like play these games? If you want to play them at stadiums, I personally love playing in stadium games, and that's how you're going to end up getting stadium games. I understand. I do get the part of it not being a curtain raiser, because it does become a bit of a curtain raiser then.
You get people trickling in.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's on the clubs to figure out how best to sort of make it, I guess, not, hey, let's just come and have a look at the women's before you go to the men's. You want to be able to have those real dedicated supporters that are able to come to both and support both just as much. But, it's a really, like, pros and cons of both. I just don't think you can have the 2 seasons running at the same time and not have some sort of joint games at some point.
I think also for spectators, like if you're a Freo fan and you want to watch both teams, it's the easiest way to do it in your weekend.
That's But that's like 8 hours.
It's pretty
Yeah.
hectic. But at the same time, though, if you then have 2 separate games at different venues, either on the same day or even the next
Yeah.
day, you've
People
got
aren't gonna do
that's
that.
an entire weekend, and
It's
also
just
that's
footy,
an
yeah.
entire weekend of like supporters time. Like,
And
yeah,
if it's-
what is the best?
And if it's girls home, boys away, that's almost even harder because then it's every week. If you want to get to every game, you're like locked in every weekend.
Yeah, and we have a
It's
few.
tricky.
We have a few staff that like cross over both.
Mm-hmm.
So like dietitians and a little bit of like high performance and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So you can't be in 2 places at once,
Yeah, of
especially
course.
if they're going to be split home and away. That's even harder than both being at home. So there's so many like
God,
little
it's a tough one,
intricacies,
yeah.
about what works best and how can it work.
There's a reason they haven't settled on it. Like,
Yeah.
there's actually just no easy answer.
Yeah.
Do you have a bit of almost like anticipation with the girls? Because I know I was talking to some Eagles girls just because they have other jobs. So if they're going to get re-signed or they need other jobs or part-time jobs, like they need to know pretty soon because like if they're going to move it up, then that
Yeah.
affects like their jobs outside because a lot of girls sometimes need that second job
Yeah.
with the pay right now.
I think that's the most frustrating thing is it takes so long to, and whether they know it or whether they're still discussing what's the best thing to do, the hardest thing is like it feels like we have this fight every year with the
exactly.
AFL and AFLPA of we just need to know whatever
Yeah.
we're going to do. We just need to know about it.
And like early enough that you can start making plans for next.
because it's the same as like, it's work, it's family, it's like going on holiday,
Yeah,
when's
travel,
our
yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes really difficult because you have no idea what it's going to look like. And
Yeah.
I had the issue with trying to get, so I finished up a job just before we went into the hub and then we had the second season and I was like, well, how am I supposed to go to a prospective employer and be like, well, I might be available, but I might not be for like this amount of time. Probably going to be away every second week. Like, I
tough
don't
sell.
know.
You
I
just
actually
can't
don't
get-
know. I can't tell you. Like, no one's going to hire you.
Yeah, you just can't get job. Like that's like me right now with my ACL. I'm like, I'm gonna be here till August, which isn't in a full year.
Yeah.
I'm like, probably have to stay in the part time
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like that's the way it does
Yeah.
become with like professional athletes and
Yeah.
particularly women
Yeah.
who aren't getting paid enough to like usually suffice the whole year.
Yeah.
That you're like, well, I need to have this time in advance.
Yeah.
And with every year that it's getting shifted and changed, like
Yeah.
girls are more and more going like, I can't like plan ahead in my life. And you're living year by year. And that's
Yeah.
like not a good way like financially, like for the girls as well.
No. Well,
You know?
and the other thing is the commitments to the club become bigger. So we train a full day, one day of the week. That'll probably look to increase in years to come. And then your ability to then work outside becomes less. Yes, the pay goes up a little bit by
Yeah.
little bit, but still the girls that are on sort of that lower
Yeah, like,
level,
yeah.
it's still not enough really, unless you're living at home. Or have some great arrangement
Yeah.
that you don't have to pay for
Yeah,
like rent and things
Swanee
like that.
was saying this because she's like, some like girls like have mortgages.
Yeah.
Like then they need this like to know in
Yeah.
advance, like, am I going to get the money to pay this mortgage or
Yeah.
do I need to go elsewhere?
Yeah.
Like sure, it's all good for the 18-year-olds who are still at home.
Yeah.
Who've
Yeah.
got a pocket full of cash.
Yeah.
But like for the people who are like adults and
Yeah.
in the real world, it's
Yeah.
pretty tough.
When you mentioned the stadium games, it got me thinking about the first game at Optus. That must have been one of those, like you spoke about Whitten Oval, but the first game at Optus must have been one of those like real pinch me moments.
Yeah, that was incredible. We had, I think, can't remember if it was 35 or 40,000
Yeah.
people, something like that.
It was Collingwood, wasn't it?
It was Collingwood, yeah. And I know on the broadcast it didn't look as good because the broadcast went to the side where all the sun, it was middle of summer, it was really hot. And it looked like there was not as many people, but on the flip side, the other side was absolutely packed. And we had a great game. It was so loud. And I just remember towards the end of the game, we were winning. We were going to win. And the Freo chant went up
Sick.
around the
Yeah,
stadium.
cool.
And that was like,
Yeah.
and you kind of on the ground, you're like, oh my, they're doing that for us.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's different when you're on that side and you're joining in the chant and whatnot. It was almost hard to concentrate. Then you're like, and this would probably, a goal had been kicked and then you're just thinking, or you're on the bench and you just like, you get a second to appreciate what was happening. That
you
was
were an
pretty
Eagles
incredible.
fan growing up, but early 2000s Subi Oval, like Sunday Arvo, Freo Chan was like the coolest thing ever. Like game in the bag, so cool.
Yeah, it's good.
That would have been unreal.
I've never been a Freo's fan, but I can. My mum bleeds purple.
Yeah.
Like, so she's the one in the crowd. with purple scarf on.
Great. Can we get your mum on?
Oh, mate, you probably should. When I signed for Eagles, she actually shook like Adam Selwood's hand and said, "I'll never support Eagles."
Great.
No, like genuinely,
No,
she's
that's
like,
so
ha ha
good.
ha, and I'm like,
No, well, my dad struggled with the whole transition from the
Yeah.
Eagles to the Dockers. They still go for the
men's team.
men's team.
Yeah.
I think they also they will support the men's Freo team as well. I've kind of changed. It's not as
It's not the hatred.
It's like hate. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
used to be
yeah.
like real hate. But my dad used to wear to our games an Eagles hat, but just put my badge over the emblem.
Nice.
And I was like,
Great. Yeah,
Dad.
I
and then
kinda love that.
someone saw it. One of the girls saw it, and I got fined for it. And I was like, Dad, you can't be doing that anymore. I was like, I've given you that many Freo hats. I'm like, you just got to wear one of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's now wearing Freo hats
Oh,
these
there you
days.
go.
But yeah, it was a slow process.
And you won a Derby medal at Optus.
Yes.
How does that go down in the family
Oh.
when you've just torn them to shreds for the 7th time in a row?
No, well, that was later. When they'd made the move. Freo supporters at that point. But no, that was incredible. And that was the closest game that we've had. Against the Eagles. I just remember that game, and everyone's like, "Oh, you played so well." I was like, I just really didn't want to lose.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, everything that was driving me was like, do not be.
There's
the
a bit of
ones
an-
that,
there
like,
is there
lost.
is you can see that in those derbies.
Yeah.
There is a bit of
Yeah.
I love that matters.
yeah.
Like from an
Yeah.
outside point of view, like I love to see that like the derbies
It's
like
a
really
bit
mean
of
something.
the scuffles. I'm
Yeah.
like, because I remember like, Kelly Gibson made the move, and she was she loves to chat.
Yeah.
So she was chatting. She just like got decked by a Freo girl. I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, and there is a bit of that out there, and there's a bit of feeling because, a lot of their players played for us originally, and there's just that rivalry, and I absolutely love that. I'd say that there was a few less scuffles this year because I wasn't playing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the
I was like,
instigator.
and I was
Yeah.
like, maybe it's me.
Did that
I'm the problem.
I'm the problem. Okay.
did that hurt of it not playing?
Yeah, definitely. That was the hardest one out of the three that I missed to watch and know that, you're missing out on such a big day. But it was incredible to watch the first goal when Ash McCarthy kicked it. It was like incredible because
That's my
obviously
girl.
she's come over from the Eagles, so it's
Yeah.
just a huge thing to get on the scoreboard. I cheered so loud and hard that I almost fainted.
Passed out.
I almost fainted.
You
And I was
almost
like,
that person.
I was like, I need to sit down.
Everyone's going to be
immediately.
reporting on you. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
she's fainted
Journalists
on
are
the
rushing up to
fainted.
find Hayley Miller
Yeah.
at the level.
It was just I was stood up too quickly and
Oh, yeah,
yelled
classic.
it like so loud, and then I was like, I need to sit down because I'm about to
we
pass
had her
out.
on the week before the derby.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, just another game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's not.
not.
I was like, keep telling yourself
Yeah,
that. And then
you-
she
yeah.
kicked the goal. I was like, all right.
It was
she's-
probably lucky we have played the Eagles a bunch of times, like in pracky matches and
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So that kind of helps when you're like, okay, you know what to expect. It's just
Yeah.
you got to go out and put your best foot forward in those games.
On your injury, you were in and then out, and then in again the next week, and then out. Were you genuinely like getting to the line every week, and was it like an 11th hour fitness test?
Well, with the first one, because I did the injury on the Thursday night,
Okay.
and I had to get a scan on the Friday. Like, you have to put the team in on the
Yeah, of
Thursday.
course,
So
yeah.
the team was already in. Then I got injured, and then I had to get a scan on the Friday. So then it was and they were like, well, we'll just see if it will settle down. So
Yeah.
that one was fair enough because, it was that sort of
Yeah, of
last
course.
minute. The next week was probably just because it was a derby and you got to, I wanted to play, desperately wanted to play.
Yeah.
Realistically, that was probably never going to happen. But, we just wanted a miracle that it was going to just
You
settle
start doing
down
the
really quick.
classic
How-
little lies. Like, how's
Yeah.
this feeling? Out of 10. Oh, pretty
Oh.
good. 1.
Yeah. And you're like, I can
And
barely
then
feel
they
it.
get you to run.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
no, they've got me here.
And look, on the Tuesday I ran, and for 90% of it, I was like, oh my, I can't believe how good
Yeah,
this
on
feels.
here.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm on here. And then I started to feel it towards the end. I was like, okay, we'll just stop there. And then it got a little bit sore again. I was like, damn, that's not ideal, but I got through more than I thought. So there was a genuine chance then,
Yeah.
because then the Thursday rolls around again. We don't train till after
Yeah.
the team's put in. So I was like, well, give me a chance to get in. So that's why I was named again on that one. And then, the Thursday training, probably because I did a little much on the Tuesday, then that one went worse than the Tuesday. I was like, damn, we're done.
The following week, I think you'd had finals sewn up.
Yeah.
But
Well, they did
sewn
have to
up by then.
win. Yeah, they had to win
Yeah.
against GWS, but obviously with GWS's form, we were pretty
Yeah.
confident going into that one. That one was hard to make the choice of not playing because
Okay.
I
'Cause it's
actually
a-
did get through training.
It's a different
okay?
decision, isn't it? It's like a risk thing
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the
fitness
West
thing.
Coast one was made for me because it was sore.
Yeah.
Like I was not going to be able to play. And then the GWS one, I got through the week training pretty well. I ticked off a bunch of things, but I hadn't really done any footy or
Yeah.
like sprinting, change direction, jumping. And we kind of were like, well, the risk in this is pretty high. So why don't we just give it
Park
an
it.
extra
Yeah.
one? So and it was easier to kind of make that decision knowing that finals were pretty likely to happen. So to sit on the sidelines of that one, it was like, okay, you're doing this for the longevity.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did it now.
And now you're playing
'cause,
finals.
Yeah, now we're good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Phew.
When did captaincy become something that you thought you might want to do and kind of on the radar? Like, when did you first feel like? I feel like you get to a stage where it happens pretty naturally, but you kind of just go like, oh, I'm a bit of a leader here. Like, I'm one of the more senior girls, that sort of thing. When did it become like I think I might want to be captain here?
I don't think it was like a decision of, I want to be like captain now.
Yeah.
Like, Juddy was the captain, obviously, through that whole time, and she was an incredible leader, and just learning off her was fantastic. I probably always had a few of those leadership capabilities. At West Perth, when I was 17, I became captain of that team.
Right. Okay.
So after the first year, that second year, I became captain, and basically because you had the drive for wanting to improve the team, and they obviously saw that in me pretty early, and to have a 17-year-old as your captain's a pretty massive responsibility at that time. So I kind of I suppose I started my journey of that pretty early. I remember asking Kirby Bentley early on, like, what do I need to do to be a leader at this level? This is when she was part of Freo, and she was in the leadership group. And I can't exactly remember what she said to me, but it was just like, your behaviours, everything that you do, girls are watching what you're doing.
Gets
So,
mirrored, yeah.
like, the number one thing is doing things for the right reason for yourself, and being the best player that you can be. Girls are going to watch that and learn from that. And I was young at that point. I was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
So, I probably didn't. Apply like those early years. I wish I could re-go and do AFLW again, because I would do things so differently those first couple of years of. Yes, while it was professional, it wasn't. We were only there for a really short amount of time, and then you went away and had all this time to yourself. And I probably just didn't apply myself enough in that time away from the club. Super committed when we were at it, but probably if I really reflect, I was like, I'm doing the work, but I wasn't really doing the work as well as what I would do it now. So I wish I could go and do that again. But when I sort of figured that out, and you'd figure that out over a period of years, I just started, to really apply myself in making myself better, and obviously the girls started to see that. And then I was I was part of an emerging leaders group to start off with. Then I was part of the leadership group. And then once you're comfortable sort of in what you're putting out, then... And I'd been around for a while by this point too, so there was a lot of new girls coming in, and there's so much that you can then, teach them about what this level is actually like. It's a whole new ball game to what they've ever been sort of exposed to before. So you just start taking sort of people under your wing and just showing them the ropes. And the captaincy in itself, there wasn't a decision like that I made. You don't get to choose, I'm going to be now. Me now. It's my turn now. No, you certainly don't get that choice. But as, Cara came to sort of that crossroads of, she was going to continue it anymore. There was a few discussions that I had with her. But, it kind of happened organically in terms of, becoming the next captain.
The stuff you spoke to Kirby about as a 20-year-old, do you feel like by the time you became captain, you kind of had that figured out? Was it a conscious thing, like, I need to be switched on here, like I'm the captain, or did you feel like you kind of just had your game in order?
Yeah, I think, like I said, like I'd put a lot of those things in place and just worked on myself and being the best player that I could be, and that includes, all those high performance behaviours, what you're putting into your body, how hard you're, training in the off season, the recovery, all those kinds of things, and then that starts to translate into your performance, and then applying yourself every single training session, and those people don't build trust in your ability to lead them over, 1 or 2 sessions. It's over years of work. So by the time, I became captain, I was pretty confident in sort of what I was putting out. I had so much to learn, though, at that point of what it meant to be then a captain, and everyone is looking at you all the time, not just your team, but everyone else as well. Again, I have probably struggled with, what do people think of you? And that was like a real hard one of like, it doesn't necessarily matter what people think of you. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to like what decisions you make all the time. But if you've got the right intentions and you're making those decisions for the right reasons, then that's what you're going to go with.
How hard is that to come to terms with? Because it's obviously a group of people that you care very much about. And I suppose initially you'd very much care what people think about you. How did you kind of let that go?
It's just kind of speaking to people and working through it in yourself. I got a great sports psych outside of the club, so there's so much that I can then let go in that sense. And for a while, it's like, you don't want to see like a psychologist or anything like that. There's a bit of stigma around that, but now it's good. There's so much less stigma around that. I reckon most of our girls would see sports psych, because there's so many different elements to work through. And I think as a leader, it's so important to surround yourself with people that can help you when things aren't going well. But even when things are going well, you just need that. Sometimes you just need that support and reassurance.
It's just an element of being an elite athlete.
Well, it's the mental side. It's like you see Lockie Neal's talking about it so much more, and even at the Brisbane Lions, like to have coaches starting to get on board now, because it is like we were talking about Mim, like you can see her confidence. Confidence is like a huge thing in the game, and like understanding that and like knowing yourself and what makes you confident, and you're like. Even like your arousal levels and stuff like that, like it's so important. Yeah, like you need a sports psych.
You obviously played a bit of a different role this year with Ange taking over the captaincy and moving to the 3 vice captains in the leadership group. Looking back now, that obviously call was made at the start of the season or before the start of the season. Now that season's not quite done, but home and away season's done. What have you taken out of it? What have you have you changed the way you lead? What have kind of your learnings out of it this year? Yeah,
well, I think going back to, what people think of you, that changeover was really difficult for me to start off with, because it's a player and sort of like coaching, staffing, voting, and like that hurt a lot, because I'm like, hey, like they didn't back me in to be in this position, but then with Ange being in that position and she's not playing, you almost have to still do the role that you already had. So that was kind of a little bit of I was like, okay, how am I going to sort of navigate this situation? But again, having conversations with like my circle of people is, nothing changes with a title. You're still going to be you, and you're still the same footy player, you're still the same person. Yes, you don't have that title, but you're still going to give the same sort of qualities to the leadership group and our team. So I sort of went away and had to think of, what do I bring to the team? And I'm a very different leader to Ange and to the rest of our girls in the leadership group. My big strength is sort of driving really high standards, and that was something that I always was, super strong on when I was captain, and that doesn't change. I can go out there and put my best foot forward every single training session, like in the gym, motivating others to, lift heavier, do everything to the T properly, and that's going to put our group in a great space. So that's kind of where I went with it. I was like, well, I can still do those things. It doesn't make a difference at all out on the field. I'm still going to, give the same guidance and, leadership to the rest of the girls around me. I'm not necessarily giving the pre-game pump up every week, but tell you what, that's hard as
Yeah,
it is to
tough
think
gig.
of something new to say all the time.
I was saying this to Ange, and so we had Ange and Swanee in. I said, because I was captain at Davidson.
Yeah.
Oh, I just started saying the same stuff,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, "Oh, here she goes."
Yes,
again."
yeah, the same
Just
thing.
the same bits,
Yeah.
just adding a different team name
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
So I have no originality.
Yeah,
in it.
it's hard. Yeah, it is hard to like come up with something new to say.
and everyone's
every
just
time.
looking at
And-
you.
Yeah,
and you're like,
so it's been kind of nice because we've kind of rotated it a bit. Obviously, Anya went down with injury, so then it kind of went to just Pewey and I. But then Driscoll captained 1 week, Braz captained 1 week. So it's just been a real sort of team performance, I suppose, within the leadership
how
group.
does Pewey go with a rev up?
She's improving.
Really?
Yeah, because she's a very
have you met
level.
Pewey? That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. She's
I
not
haven't.
a rev
No.
up type of gal.
She's super, I think the very first time she did it was like, okay, yep, just do what Webby said. It was
Yeah,
because Webby's
yeah.
already, the other hard thing is like, Webby's already said something.
Yeah.
She's already given a spiel.
Yeah.
And then you got to give another spiel. And it's like, how can you make it a little bit different to that, but the same sort of messaging?
Have you seen the memes about the assistant coach where it's like, anything to say, assistant coach? And it's like after the head coach, you just list everything like, yeah, energy. And like they always just say, and like that's
Yeah.
exactly what the captains
That's
do. as
100%
well, yeah.
it. That's 100% it. So it's like, yeah, it's been good to have, and we're all very different. Like I'm very much the rev up, let's go. Like we'll yell if need be.
Yeah.
Run through a brick wall sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of my style. Whereas like Pewey's a little bit more like level, and so it's been good to have different people
Ladies,
give their different stuff. Yeah.
When did it take a little bit for you to arrive at that? Like, was there hesitancy when the decision was first made for you to then come back into the leadership group? Did it take a little while, or were you straight away like, no, this is what I want to give?
Well, in terms of the process of where it sort of happened, I was told on that day and it was announced on that day.
Really?
And
Okay.
that was it. So did I get much of a choice? Not really. And that's, I've spoken to sort of the club about that and be like, okay, let's, like if this was to happen to someone else, you'd probably want a little bit of
refine
time.
that process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit of
Process it,
time
yeah.
because that was really hard they came to my house and, told me this is what's happening. And then it was like, well, I had to go in the club that day and
Yeah.
like the media, like it was all happening. And that was pretty hard for me to sort of process and deal with. But yeah, once that's the dust settled, I was like, no, I still have something to give here. And yeah, it was an adjustment because I'm not running leadership meetings anymore. Like you just couldn't kind of take a step back. And I did just for the first little bit was like, hey, just sit in it and just just be around it, be part of it, and then you start to build your confidence back again. And our girls in terms of like the team and within the leadership group were great. Of like you give what you can give at the moment, and then there was a lot like nothing changes from here. We still really value what you bring to the team and your leadership. So keep doing that, and it gave me a lot of confidence to keep doing what I was doing.
If you think that the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy is only about footy, think again. It's also about giving young people the opportunity to realise there is the possibility to be great on and off the field. It's about helping young players develop and grow, and as the official NGA partner, Woodside is supporting this dream from grassroots to greatness. Growing Freo's pool of talent to feed the AFLW and AFL, and always cheering our next generation on. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy.
Do you feel like this has been one of your best years in a few? Like you've obviously missed a few games, but you've played some really good footy. Does it feel like that?
Yeah, I think I've had a few injury interrupted sort of pre-seasons and whatnot the last couple of years. So that, certainly doesn't help. I had a great off-season and pre-season this year, which was, it gives you so much confidence in your body. Funnily enough, then this is the first time I've ever been injured in season. So there you go. Maybe you should just do it outside of season.
So you've actually just never been injured in a season?
No, not in. I've had a lot of off-season, so my calf injuries are something that I've dealt with for a lot of my career, but a lot of it has been off-season. Usually it's when I'm do a bit too much long distance, slow, continuous running. With there's some calf issues have really popped up with that. But this is the first time that I've ever missed games through injury. I missed one game prior to this, so that was suspension. So
you did someone.
completely different.
Started fighting a derby?
No, it wasn't that.
Adelaide next week. you must be super, super excited. So Saturday was pretty special. This is going to be a different beast. One, because it's on the road, and Adelaide are an excellent,
Quite good.
very
Pretty
good at football.
Pretty good.
Did you watch their game on Friday night? What do you take out of that, and what does the week look like for you now?
Yeah, I think it is.
We're chatting on a Monday, by the way.
Yeah, it's completely different, I think, from the weekend just gone. But like I said, with finals, anything can happen, and yeah, there's a lot of good players in that team, and you probably look at it on paper, you're like, that's pretty hard to beat. We're going to have to be at our absolute best, but that's what we'll be looking to do. We want to be at our best and play our best brand of footy. And, we played really well away from home. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, you have to travel. And I'm like, yes, get us on the road. This is great. This is awesome. We have been really good on the road. And we played Adelaide early in the year and we had a shocking game. We couldn't kick a goal. We didn't kick a goal. We couldn't get one through the big sticks, me included. So, but, a couple of goals in that game can completely change what's sort of happening. So, we will train tonight, and then we'll just sort of go through the week and look at matchups and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when it comes to Saturday, it's just putting your best foot forward and cracking in and giving it absolutely everything. Because when you put any team under enough pressure, things can start falling away pretty quickly.
Underdog mentality.
Yeah. I love the underdog mentality.
What was the analysis like out of the Adelaide game last time? It felt like the wind was a bit funny that day, as it has been a few times this season, but looked like they just set up really well behind the ball and you kind of just struggled to break that down a little bit. How did you kind of unpack that?
Yeah, honestly felt like they had 3 extra players out on the ground. They set up, once they got the ball inside their sort of forward half, they set up extremely well behind the ball, and we weren't able to sort of shift it off the line and find our way through that. I don't think, the wind is the same for both teams, and we weren't able to do
Somehow
anything with it.
To do well.
They managed to. It definitely dropped off when it was going our way.
It's weird how that happened.
No, it was. Yeah, I think just the game we weren't able to get many passages of play. Like our defenders did a great job of rebounding it off sort of the halfback, but our forwards, we probably just weren't organised enough and predictable enough to the girls coming out of halfback, and then weren't able to get anything going sort of forward. So we will certainly look at that, and they did that on the weekend at times, had a really strong set behind the ball against North Melbourne. So their game plan, most teams' game plans seem pretty similar throughout the year. So, we'll be looking to try and probably equalise some of those numbers to give ourselves a chance of scoring.
Is the underdog mentality stuff something that you actually talk about internally? Like, is it the vibe that you're going for?
I haven't been in at the club yet, so I don't actually
know.
She
walks in, there's a banner that says underdog mentality.
Maybe, we never know. Probably not. I think it's more the opportunity of this is an opportunity to come up against a really, really solid team, and anything can happen with that.
The other one we wanted to ask you about is I think there might be 2 AFLW related podcasts based in WA, and you host the other one.
Yes.
Rival podcast. So thanks for coming on.
Why haven't you got us onto your podcast? How's that not work?
When are we coming on?
Yeah, maybe you can now. We're looking for, we've run out of debutantes and things this year, so
you've got a whole squad to pick from.
I know, we'll have to
get in a journo and an ex-player.
Wouldn't that be good?
Is
it something that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, no, it's so much fun. Driscoll's an absolute crack up, so we're always having a great time in there, and it's so good to get to know our teammates and whatnot on a different level. We kind of go through their story and their upbringing, how they get into footy, and the best part about it is all the little quirks. Driscoll will go and literally call people's mum,
really great,
or sister or whoever, and get the
Why
dirt.
Don't you do that, Rosie?
The dirt.
Buttermilk.
Yeah.
Nah, not for me. I don't. That's an invasion of privacy, right?
Well, Driscoll doesn't care about
Driscoll,
that.
Driscoll's
all
a bit
for it.
different.
No, she gets all the dirt. So, we have a good laugh on the podcast.
Well, thank you for coming on ours. Very much appreciated. We can't wait for the return pod. we'll come down to Coburn.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Awesome.
the invite.
All right.
I'll be in contact with Freya.
My management
Sounds
will be
good.
in
My
touch.
management will be in touch.
No, we really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with us, and we can't wait for Saturday.
No, awesome.
Really
Thank you.
looking forward to it. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Dubya podcast. Remember, you can listen and watch this podcast on YouTube Music, and don't forget to follow or subscribe, as we've still got 3 more episodes to go for the year as we run through the finals. Leave us a rating and a review, and tell your mates while you're there as well. We'd love to hear from you. Email is dubya@wanews.com.au, and a massive game for Fremantle this week, Saturday afternoon, 12:35 against Adelaide in Adelaide. We'll be tuning in. We can't wait. And go the Dockers.
Woo! This podcast is brought to you by Woodside Energy, helping young players develop and grow as the official sponsor of the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy.